This Sunday.
The Friends are coming! The Friends are coming!
Sons of Liberty, history's new scripted drama.
Hand over the tray to Samuel Adams and John Hancock.
The untold story of a group of rebels.
These are our streets!
Who brought an empire to its knees.
These people are asking for a war. We're going to give them one.
Let's show them what we're made of. Fire!
A 3-night special event, Sons of Liberty. Premieres Sunday at 9, 8 Central on History.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Brock Huard joins us, of course, from ESPN, and we'll get his take on some of the things that are going on in college football. Brock, before we get to the world of college football, you are living well, my friend, doing a radio talk show in Seattle 2 years in a row, off to the Super Bowl. What's that like?
Yeah, it doesn't get better than this. And I remember last year being on Radio Row, and a number of the national radio guys, Mark Schlereth in particular, who's done both local and now hosts a national show, a number of those guys coming up to our booth and just saying and reminding us, hey, man, it doesn't get better than this. In your business of local talk radio, it just never, ever, ever gets better than what you're witnessing right now. And they are oh so true. Felt it last year. And I would say in some ways, last year was a bit of desperation. We used to call it battered fan syndrome that the folks in Seattle had, because everything that could go wrong seemingly went wrong year after year, decade after decade, and not won a world championship in the city since the '79 Sonics. So there was a real pulse of desperation. This year is a real pulse of accomplishment, of everything that team went through, sitting there at 3-3 this year, and all the stories about their quarterback and their running back and the friction in the locker room. And now Pete Carroll has seemingly got that crew together, has really persevered. In many ways, the Green Bay game, a microcosm of their season at large. And I'll tell you, Paul, you just turn on the radio and the phone lines light up, and we may not have a Tammy quite like you do screaming at us, but, man, we have a whole lot of fun.
You've not only been in a lot of great games, both in college and the pro, but you've been around them. Brock, I'm a neophyte when it comes to pro football, but where would last Sunday rank?
If you'd have been there with me, if you'd have been up in our radio suite and taken that game in, I don't know if it was better than the NFC Championship the year before. Better is kind of a funky word anyway. How do you want to define better? They were oh so different. The year before was San Francisco. It was a rivalry with Harbaugh. It was bitter sports hatred in that rivalry. Two heavyweights just slugging it out. This was really about, holy cow, how is this happening to us? This wasn't supposed to happen. Big favorites. This is a Green Bay team that wasn't supposed to be able to stop you, and then to have complete and utter euphoria. I mean tears and hugs. My co-host, a guy by the name of Mike Salk in Seattle, he's got northeastern roots, and he's not a warm and fuzzy and crier by any extent. And I looked over at him a couple times, and I'm seeing him even sob. There have never been more tears shed in a sports community in Seattle ever, ever, ever. I bet every dollar on that. It was quite a euphoric feeling in that stadium.
Now, I met your co-host. I was fortunate enough to do a show from your studio, and you had me on. And no, he's not a warm and fuzzy guy. No, he is not. And, up in the Northwest, we're kind of a touchy-feely, warm and fuzzy. There is some of that element, but I'm telling you, women, children, dads, all across, that sense of community, which I know you love doing your show, and you feel it so much in the SEC, going to all the different venues, right? Seattle is the most SEC-like of any venue in professional sports. The sense of community, the sense of real inclusion with the program, all that credit goes to Pete Carroll, the regime there, the 12th man that feels like they are a big and play an integral role in their success, and I really think last Sunday they did. Brock, how would you compare what we saw in college football? You were part of the New Year's Six doing the Peach Bowl, and how would you compare that versus what you experienced on Sunday, the championship day, the day before versus Sunday?
I think it's pretty similar, and I know in talking to Tessitore, who was down there and watched the semifinal with Alabama, Ohio State, I know that he came from there to our final bowl game, and he said to me a number of times, said, man, I've been to BCS championships, but I hadn't felt that kind of energy. I think it was the anticipation. I think it was that same word. I'll come back to it. That sense of desperation that Ohio State felt, that Alabama felt, of those teams that were in this moment for the first time. It was phenomenal. It was the best thing the that could have happened for college football. And I'm not saying the SEC losing. I'm just saying the magnitude and scope of those games, the competition, the fever pitch in all of those venues. It did nothing for our game of college football but continue to, I think, accelerate it forward and maybe in some ways close that gap with the NFL in market share, where the NFL has been such the lead dog. I think that playoff started to maybe close that gap down the home stretch a little bit.
I'll turn you into an analyst, not a game analyst like you did all year with Joe, but I'll turn you into Richard Deitch of Sports Illustrated. You sat next to him in the booth at the Chick-fil-A Bowl. How did Tim Tebow handle his first assignment?
Yeah, he was awesome. He was really awesome. I was surprised because usually you get in those settings and you start to talk a lot, right? And especially us quote-unquote analysts, that's kind of what we get paid to do. And our management here always says, hey, let the game, speak for itself. I'll say this. This was Tebow up in the booth. This is the first time I've done this. Up in the booth, you have all sorts of guys. And Tessitore, you worked with him all year. He's just majestic, right? He's just the pro. And I'm just trying to kind of see what I'm seeing. And here was Tebow. He was locked in. He was watching the plays. He was barking things out at times. As you would imagine a competitor. I mean, it all came out as he watched that game. It was an awful lot of fun to work with him.
I talked to him today, and I said something about that. Tebow, he doesn't even remember because he's done so many other things since then. That's just who he is. But Tim, let me move on to some issues in Southeastern Conference football. One of the biggest topics of conversation has been Lane Kiffin, the report about going to the 49ers as the offensive coordinator. I don't know. You may have insight. You may not. But just what do you make out of all that?
I don't think I have tremendous insight. I know that he was removed in many ways from just kind of his creature comfort in California and everything that is out there for Lane, all the relationship he has there. And he put that hoodie on and he just grinded in Tuscaloosa. And I thought he did a fantastic job. I think he exceeded many people's expectations of what he could do. Heck, look at what the NFL's doing in some ways, stealing some of what he did schematically. So I know why the NFL both appeals to him and why the NFL and some of their head men are looking at what he's doing and saying, ooh, I kind of like some of those matchups. I kind of like his creativity. I like the X's and O's and what he was able to do this year. So I would in no way be at all surprised if he moves on. I don't think Nick Saban, frankly, would be surprised if a coordinator job in San Francisco, the one that he's been linked to in some capacity, I don't think if that came down tonight on the bottom line, it wouldn't shock me and it wouldn't shock Nick Saban. I don't think it would shock a lot of people close to that program down there.
Brock Huard with some insight about pro and college football. I'm sure you're looking forward to the Super Bowl. We can't wait as well. Thanks so much for the time, Brock.
Hey, anytime, Paul. You got it.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Let's check in with Larry, who's up next. Good afternoon, Larry.
Hey, man. What's up, Paul?
Hey there, Larry.
Hey, man, I'm kicking like a chicken.
Good.
In the signing class. But, you kind of upset me a little bit, man. You're already going after the Tide today.
How did I upset you, Larry? What have I said? What have I done?
Listen, man. Come on. Can I say something before anything else? I have a buddy.
You may say whatever you would like, Larry. That's what this program is all about. You know that.
I know. My friend, I never done this before, Paul. Shout out to a buddy of mine. He went to Vietnam, went to school together, Donnie Burke. I just want to say that. Okay. Anyways, hey, what I'm trying to say is the Bama, we got 12 early signees, man, early enrollments. And one of them's the number one quarterback, in the nation. I know people going to flip, but you're talking about there's very few people that believe Bama's going to be back up in there. That's got to be very few. Do you mean none? This Bama nation is disappointing me. They don't call the show. They don't talk nothing. They just sit back on their ass, and they need to get with it, man. I mean, listen, just because Super Bowl's fixed to be over with don't mean that we can't still dog Auburn, son. I'm going to go after Auburn the rest of the year until the next kickoff at November when we kick their butts again, Paul. Can I get a Ric Flair? Woo! Can you do me one?
Woo! Hey, Larry, let me say to you, my friend, just because the national experts aren't picking Alabama doesn't mean anything, because they are going to win the day 2 weeks from tomorrow. short of the greatest collapse since Green Bay in Seattle on Saturday, on Sunday afternoon, no one's going to stop Alabama on recruiting. But I do think I'm just listen. You know me, Larry. I just speak. I speak the truth. Give me a woo, okay? Come on, give me another nature boy.
Woo!
You can do better than that, Larry.
Woo!
That was better. Kevin is next up in Montgomery, Alabama.
How you doing, Mr. Finebaum?
Hey, Kevin.
Good. Yeah, I just wanted to ask you, State's difference of opinion, why it seems like you say a lot that Ohio State has surpassed Alabama. I mean, it's one
well, Kevin,
game.
They did.
It's one game.
No, it's not one game. This isn't a basketball game in November. This isn't a football game in September. This was a national semifinal on January 1st, one of the biggest football games in the history. So Ohio State beat Alabama. They moved on to the championship game last week, as you may or may not have heard. They won the national championship game, and they moved ahead of Alabama. Next.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's 1 year. That don't make them so much better.
What year are we talking about here? Are we talking about 2020, or are we talking about 2014? Yeah,
you have said that they have moved past that, but they've just moved past. They won a game this year.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it doesn't hurt them that much. It doesn't seem like any of the ESPN recruiting experts believe that Alabama's going to lose a bunch of recruits.
No, they're
because
not.
of all the new coaches. So, why? I mean, it should just be Ohio State was better this year. They're the national champions. They killed Alabama in the Sugar Bowl.
Well, they didn't kill Alabama, but
and move on.
Kevin, let me try to explain. That's just the way of the world. It doesn't mean that Alabama, as you probably know, living in Montgomery, is held to there's Alabama and then there's the rest of the world, so to speak. And now, and Alabama for the last 5 or 6 years has been at the epicenter of college football. I'm not sure they are there as firmly as they once were. That's why you're getting some teeth gnashing. That's why you're getting angst and anxiety. That's why you're seeing coaches leave Alabama. That's why you're seeing maybe another one bail or not. I don't know the truth. I just speculate based on the best available information. But all I said was Ohio State has moved past Alabama. They have.
Okay. Well, you're a leading opinion giver. Thank you, Paul.
No, I mean, no, listen, sometimes I give opinions, and sometimes I state facts. That is a fact. Alabama has been passed by Ohio State. I don't think there's. Help me, John. Is there something to argue about that point?
You know what I think about sitting here? It's almost like, they lost to Ohio State in the Sugar Bowl. They also lost to Bob Stoops and Oklahoma in 2013. So it's been 2 years in a row where they haven't won in the Sugar Bowl, and it's almost like that year had been forgotten. Why is that going away? I mean, it's been 2 years now.
Because we beat Auburn. Oh, I'm sorry. No, listen, everyone knows my relationship with Alabama fans. It goes way back, and I hope it continues as long as I'm on this program. But my point is that I was just simply stating the reality of the situation. I think it does. Last year doesn't matter. Next year actually does matter a little bit, and I was simply stating that Alabama perceptively right now isn't where it was a year ago or the year before that. They will not be the preseason favorite. Last year they weren't either. FSU was, but they were right next to FSU. I'm not sure where they're going to be this year, and it really doesn't matter. Alabama fans are going to be thrilled in 2 weeks when the Tide is number one again on National Signing Day. But if you're number one every year on National Signing Day, not to sound like Steve Spurrier a couple of months ago, then how do you ever lose a game? Alabama has not been an underdog since 2009, but they have continually, 2 times last year, 2 times this year, lost to perceptively inferior teams. Should that happen? Yeah, college football. It happens all the time, but it just seems like it's a little bit more difficult for some Alabama fans to accept.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Let's continue with Jason in Macon, Georgia. Hello, Jason.
I'm sorry, Paul. I got a couple things I want to ask you about. First of all, what you talking about Georgia just in, the main thing I think was a problem was we had a quarterback that couldn't exploit the top of the defense, so they were never worried about it.
Sure.
But yeah, we still had a monster freshman that is probably the best freshman running back in SEC history, or rivals, first or both.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I listen.
Nothing against Hudson Mason.
Let me just say this. I was impressed. I mean, you couldn't help but be, but I covered Herschel Walker and Bo Jackson, and I'm going to give a slight edge to Herschel Walker, if you don't mind.
I will, too. I'm a diehard Georgia fan. I'm just saying that I was barely, I was a few years old when Herschel was stalking goal lines. But I'm just saying I've watched all the film. And I mean, I'm not saying Chubb's on his level, but he's right there with it.
No, he's I'm not arguing with him. I'm just making.
I think people are overestimating Hudson Mason. He's the 1980s Buck Bellew.
That good, huh?
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean,
listen. I mean, no one.
I'm not dogging your boy Alabama. They got some, but we got some. We got some wide receivers that can move too. But we couldn't exploit the top because we didn't have a quarterback with an arm strong enough. I mean, we got a bucking stallion, and Ramsey who's got a killer arm, but I don't know if he's got it in between the ear holes. I mean,
that's always a big question mark, Jason, and you know that because you know football. But
the thing I have a problem with is why does my school always seem to get hammered for any little, and then T-Town menswear. I mean, come on, Paul.
T-Town.
I mean, I'm not still as crazy. I'm just saying. I mean, anybody that most college football fans aren't knowledgeable. They get most of their information from ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
They think recruits are studs that they watch a 5-minute highlight from. They never went to a high school game. I mean, they've never.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood. What did you say? You said what did you say about a menswear?
T-Town menswear, Tom Albertar, or whatever. I mean, why is it that Gurley's suspended? I mean, Gurley would have won the Heisman probably this year. But he's gone for autographs. But there's been autograph scandal going on since Saban's been in Alabama.
So if I understand you correctly, and I'm pretty sure I am, you're suggesting that Alabama has been
treating the kids' gloves since Saban regime has been in Alabama.
Okay.
Yes. I mean, you don't agree? There's been multiple stories. What about, what's his name? The guy that Georgia just kicked out, John Taylor. Goes to Alabama the next 2 days in a row, Saban awards a walk on a scholarship when they're pressed for scholarships.
Well, Jason, I agree with you on that. Well, listen, as far as what happened years ago with the autographs, that's been investigated by people far more intelligent than I am. But as far as Jonathan Taylor, I think that makes Alabama look really bad. I'm with you on that one.
But, the fact that then he gets 2 walk-on scholarships the next day when any knowledgeable college football fan knows that the NCAA only does a head count day one time a year. Mm-hmm. And Alabama has an annual cut day. So yet he's given 2 walk-on scholarships.
Overall, you're suggesting that Nick Saban has been skirting the rules, and that's why he is the dominant recruiter in the sport. Is that correct?
Yes, I think he is a morally bankrupt scumbag who will do anything to win, and people idolize him for it. But he's adored by a fan base with no class and ignorant to value either.
A morally bankrupt scumbag. Man.
Yes.
I got to tell you, Jason, you have a future in talk radio.
No, I don't. I'm too old for that. I work every day. I work 6 days a week, but I just have a problem with seeing systematic cheating going on.
Okay. No, I don't care how old you are, how much you work. If you start calling Nick Saban a morally bankrupt scumbag, you will find a job somewhere. There's always an audience.
I think somebody needs to call him out. I'm sick of having media tout to him, and I would love a media credential to go, I'll question.
Okay, let's make let me give you your shot here. You're on a national program. I think you realize.
What is he going to do? What's he going to do? Come on, we'll fire him. If I call him out about signing John Taylor or anything about his over-signing and everything else, what is he really going to do?
Hey, Jason, slow down a second. I'm going to give you an opportunity because let's make believe I have Nick Saban sitting right here with me, okay?
I really believe that, Paul.
I'm going to turn it over to you and say, Jason, let me hand off to you, and you have Nick Saban. What's your first question?
Tell him to say hello.
No. What would you ask Nick Saban?
Well, I would ask him, what about the systematic cheating that has occurred at Alabama? All the medical hardship scholarships, everything. All the multiple 5-stars transferring, the cut day, everything.
Okay, next question, since I don't think he's going to answer that one.
No, he's not. He's going to say no comment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to ask him, why does he feel like he's adored by people all he does is manipulate the rules. He cries about the hurry up, no huddle, exploiting the rules of football, and I totally agree with that because you're getting on the far hash mark, and then you're going to substitute really quick with a short, small packages, just going right to a big package for 3rd and short, and then the defense, even if they can substitute, they're all the way across the damn field. and you're running a 9-10 play drive and you're snapping the ball as soon as the ref. I mean, yeah, it is a little bit cheating. And I agree with Saban on those points. But then you want to recruit 300-pound defensive ends, and then you want to be able to have time every play to damn sub them out. No, that's not cool either. I mean, all he does is exploit loopholes. He oversigns, and then he cuts the 10 worst or whatever, and then, the ones wherever he needs the depth at. That's why he never runs into the idiotic problems that Rick's, seems to run into at Georgia, where we're short at a certain position because we don't oversign by 9 or 10 a year.
Are you busy? Are you busy? I think the game's next September when Alabama comes over to Georgia. Can we get you on our Friday show and maybe sit you down with Saban and Rick and have you moderate a conversation?
Man, I'd love to, dude. I would love to.
I think you've got the
you
job.
You make it happen, Paul. I'm just sick of seeing it. I am a diehard college football fan. I have since Worley was done the damn red and black. Since I was old enough to understand the game. And I don't watch the ball, Paul. I don't watch the ball. I love football, but I'm sick of seeing just adoration. This SEC West crap is, it's insane. Georgia, we thumped Arkansas. They scored in the second half because Pruitt was smart enough to go to if they're going to score, they're going to take 5 minutes off the clock. We're going to give them everything underneath to the tight ends. We're not going to let them big boy tight ends. They got exploit us over the top, getting them 35, 45-yard gains. There was no way they could come back, Paul. Look at the halftime score.
Now, you say this adoration. This adoration is coming from where?
It's just insane. Yes, the SEC West was a good division, but this all-time crap, I knew it all season, way before the bowl game. I've been arguing with my friends all year. Y'all need to let that go. The SEC West is not some damn juggernaut.
Okay, thank you. One thing's for sure. Daryl has now been replaced as the most outrageous Georgia fan on this network.
What is in the water down there in Central and West Georgia?
That was some strong stuff. He actually held it together until the end, and then he revealed it.
I'll say one thing. He's moderator. I don't think would be the appropriate title for our friend.
Let me get some reaction from Larry. Larry, what did you make out of all that?
I'm going to tell you what I make out of it. What a poor loser, scumbucket, scumbag, dirty, rotten, low down, snake in the grass, idiot to say that about a coach like Saban. And let me tell you, I hope you listen, scumbucket, because I will make a trip to Macon, Georgia, and put the RKO on your ass. Boom! Now, you want to hook us up on a phone call tomorrow or something, I'll get on with you with the phone call. But I wish I could get in touch with you like with my hands. What's people like you? You're just like a super talking idiot Daryl. You just talk a little dang faster. So I'm just mad about that, boy. You know what, you Georgia moron, you need to just be down there with your West Georgia water boy piss
Okay, Larry. Not much of a response.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Okay, we've had enough of callers, at least for a few minutes. Time to bring some sanity back to the program, and who better than Barrett Sallee from the Bleacher Report. He like all of us, start getting a little not getting carried away, but looking ahead to the upcoming season. It seems like, Barrett, we were just talking last spring, and you were picking Georgia and Auburn to win the SEC, and some of us wondered if you had lost your mind, and then for a while it looked like we had lost our mind. But thanks for being on. It's been quite a couple of weeks since we visited last.
Well, thanks for having me. If you're counting on me to bring sanity to the show, Paul, after what those two predictions you just mentioned, I'm not sure I can do that.
Well, I would love to be able to tell you that I was better than you, but I wasn't. I had South Carolina winning the SEC and East. I did have Alabama right, although it's hard to remember that Alabama even won the SEC, isn't it?
Yeah, lots happened since then, not just on the field but off the field in Alabama, that's for sure.
I do want to ask you about a couple of things. The Lane Kiffin story, it's hard to get a good read on. I've heard pretty much everything, as I'm sure you have, as somebody who covers the SEC. What's your best guess at 5 o'clock Eastern time on this Tuesday?
Well, the folks down at the Senior Bowl that talked to Nick Saban asked him, it seemed like he was rather non-committal about Lane's future. He said he was out recruiting today for now. To me, Lane Kiffin is an interesting spot because I think whether he goes to San Francisco or stays at Alabama, I think his job prospects as a head coach in college football are going to be what they are next year really regardless of what he chooses to do. If he goes to San Francisco, he's a West Coast guy. He'd be more, familiar with that territory. He'd probably have a little more control over the offense in San Francisco than he would, in Alabama, with Nick Saban sort of looking over his shoulder all the time. So I think it's probably a more comfortable job for him. But does he really want to move 1 year after moving to Tuscaloosa? He does have a family. That is a consideration. So, I think for him personally, it's probably a better move to go. But if he stays, why would you leave a good thing that he's got with Alabama? I think he's still got plenty of pieces to work with. So, gut feeling, if I had to put money on it right now, I'd say if he gets offered, he goes. But let's just say if I had to bet money on that, I'd do my best to talk my way out of going to Vegas altogether.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems to me, forget what happened in the Sugar Bowl, and I know that's impossible for some, but if you look at the sum of Lane Kiffin's season, it was pretty remarkable. And I think if he stays and this noise gets tamped down, most people will say that's a positive for Alabama, wouldn't you?
Yeah, and if he stays, that's certainly a positive. He got a lot of the credit from the credit for what happened in the Sugar Bowl because of play calling in the second half, but he's not the reason Alabama lost that game. Kirby Smart and Nick Saban and the defense was the reason that Alabama lost that game. I mean, Lane Kiffin, look what he did. He took over an offense without a quarterback that was in the offseason relying on a graduate transfer who no one really knew how good he could possibly be. As it turns out, Blake Sims took the job. He had a new left tackle. He started a true freshman at left tackle, and that guy got injured and had to fight through injuries. So, Lane did a great job. He was a tremendous coach for Alabama. He deserved to be a finalist for the Broyles Award, and I think if he's gone, that's going to be a challenge for Nick Saban. I think that program's built to sort of withstand something like this, but it's not a positive that he would leave. That's for sure.
No, I agree with you. And listen, Alabama fans are upbeat no matter what, as long as Nick Saban is in charge. And why not? He's one of the best coaches in recent college football history. Whether he is the best coach today or not, and I hate to ask you the TMZ question of the day, but since everyone has chimed in on this, a week and 1 day after the national championship, do you think Saban's still the best in the country?
Yeah, I think he still is. I mean, I think you have to have the conversation now with Urban Meyer because of what Urban's done, not just at Ohio State, but, throughout his career as a head coach, wherever he's gone. So I think the conversation absolutely needs to be had. It's not a cut and dry thing that, that Nick Saban's the guy. You can see arguments for both sides, but, like I said last time I was on your show, we've seen Nick Saban build and sustain a dynasty. It's gone now, and Urban Meyer's on the brink of building one. But he has not sustained one. Nick Saban has. And I think until Urban Meyer actually does that, then I think it's almost impossible to say that he's a better coach overall than Nick Saban.
Let's look ahead. Even before we get to your latest power rankings, recruiting will be completed in 2 weeks. And I think we pretty well know what the headlines are going to be, short of something crazy and bizarre happening. And even before I get to that, any thoughts on the coaching changes already? We've seen Lance Thompson go to Auburn. Surprising move in some quarters. Kevin Steele and Ogeron at LSU. Your snapshot takeaway from both of those moves.
Well, for LSU, I think it was Les Miles making the best of a pretty bad situation. I was at the Music City Bowl, and that was one of the most uncomfortable post-game press conferences I've ever been in. And it was clear that Les Miles was upset about what's going on with John Chavis, the timing of the whole situation. Kevin Steele, obviously people are going to remember him for what happened in that Clemson, West Virginia Orange Bowl. He's still an adequate defensive coordinator, and then combined with Orgeron, they're good enough to not screw it up, and that's really all they need to do at LSU anyway, and plus they're going to recruit their tails off. So I think it's the best of a pretty bad situation. You couldn't really ask for a whole lot better realistically. For Auburn and Lance Thompson, if you believe the reports at Tuscaloosa that he was asked to leave, okay, I can certainly see that happening. Nick Saban doesn't like to fire coaches. That's totally understandable. But Nick Saban probably did not expect him to go sign with Auburn 1 day before the dead period ended either. So, I would imagine that's not the ideal situation for him because Lance Thompson is certainly a really good recruiter and the lead recruiter for a lot of top-tier prospects that Auburn has been in on, that Alabama is in on. So certainly not the ideal situation. But, again, it's sort of the same thing with the offensive coordinator with Lane Kiffin. Alabama, with the off-the-field staff that they have and the amount of experience they have on the on-the-field staff with the coaches they currently have on under contract, they're sort of built to withstand this. It's not like this is something that's going to absolutely make or break their career, even though the timing of Lance Thompson's move and potentially if Lane Kiffin moves on, the timing is just awful. But it's sort of mitigated by how Saban has sort of structured his entire program.
I mean, if indeed that story is true, and people in Tuscaloosa are not speaking for attribution, but they are clearly saying that he was pushed out, no doubt about it. You've heard the same things that most people have heard. Does that mean anything for Auburn, that they picked him up? I'm not saying he was on the discount, right? They obviously liked what they saw. There's a relationship with Muschamp, and before you even get to all of those questions, the impact it will have in recruiting, if any.
Well, I mean, I think it will certainly have an impact. I read an article a week ago that Auburn now has 3 of C.C. Jefferson's top primary recruiters on their staff, and only one of those guys was on the staff 2 months ago. So, I mean, it's certainly going to have an impact. And whether, if he was forced out and what that means for Auburn, they can always just take a one-year flyer on the guy, get some recruits, and if it doesn't work out and he repeats the same mistakes that ultimately got him shown the door at Alabama, then Auburn can show him the door too. So I don't think it's that much of a risk. I think if there were personality conflicts with Saban, that's fine. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to repeat themselves at Auburn.
Let's talk about your way too early power rankings with all the teeth gnashing about Alabama. I fully expect them to be 14th in your rankings, correct?
No, they're 16th. Definitely 16th. They were below the Sewanees and the old SEC schools, Georgia Tech. No, they were number 1. I think right now Alabama and Auburn, right now to me, are probably the 2 consensus teams that should be 1 or 2. I would say Alabama right now because really getting Reggie Ragland back is huge. Getting Jaron Reed back is huge. And they've got weapons. They've proven time and time again that they can just plug and play 5-star prospects and they'll be okay. Auburn, I think, is going to be right there, too. I think Will Muschamp is in a place
Barrett, let me interrupt quickly. But on our TV screen, we obviously have a Kentucky fan doing our graphics. We have Kentucky listed as number 3 and number 13. I just wanted to make sure the TV viewers, before you get too carried away with your explanation, Ole Miss is number 3 instead of Kentucky. We were thinking maybe in basketball as we did that list. But go ahead, continue. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yes, definitely not Kentucky number 3, although Mark Stoops is doing a good job. Not that good of a job quite yet. No, I think Auburn's right there, too. The thing with Auburn is that, Will Muschamp doesn't have to be great defensively. He's just got to be adequate. And if he's adequate defensively, then Auburn's going to be right there because that offense is going to be pretty solid. So, right now it's the state of Alabama. If I had to say right now, I would say the SEC West, and ultimately the SEC comes down to the Iron Bowl. Yeah,
and by the way, Mark Stoops just asked for a contract extension after being another contract extension. Let me ask you about Ole Miss. I certainly understand the job that Hugh Freeze has done. You have them very high, to say the least. Let's get some more explanation on why Ole Miss.
Well, the defense, I think, is going to be really, really good yet again. I mean, they've got one of the best safeties, I think, up-and-coming safeties in Tony Connor, Robert Condici, obviously anchoring a defensive line that's really, really good. They're going to hurt. Sinquez Golson, Corey Pruitt losses are going to hurt, but I think that offense, getting Laquan Treadwell back and getting Quincy Adeboye, some of those wide receivers back and getting healthy again is going to, really benefit Ole Miss. And I know people will say, they don't have a quarterback. Well, all right. I mean, 5 of the last 6 national champions at first-year starters. And I think Hugh Freeze's offense is built well enough to where you can sort of find a guy. It's not like Bo Wallace was Peyton Manning out there. I mean, he had his shortcomings as well. They can certainly find a guy that can make it work. The same questions for Ole Miss exist this year that existed last year. Are they going to block anybody, and are they going to run between the tackles? And until they do that, then you can't really pick them to take a huge step forward and win the SEC West, but certainly I think they're a 9-10-ish win team again. And really, in those rankings, from about 10 till about 3, it's a big muddled mess, in my opinion. I mean, I think all of those teams in that sort of beefy middle of the SEC can sort of go in a bunch of different directions.
Yeah, you can spin a schedule any way you want, but obviously Mississippi State has Alabama, LSU, and Ole Miss at home. They do have a couple of pretty stout road games, which is the way it works in the SEC. But they're pretty low in your rankings at number 10, even with Dak Prescott coming back. Why?
Well, I just don't trust that defense. I mean, that defense to me, the secondary was pretty abysmal last year. They did force some turnovers in the straight, but the front seven really was where they were great. They did a great job in the red zone with a fantastic front seven. 3 of those guys are gone up front on the defensive line, and Bernard McKinney declared early. So I just don't know if you can trust that defense. And then offensively, the offensive line has questions. Josh Robinson was so good for them at running back. And, I don't know if it can be the Dak show. I do like the Runyon Wilson at wide receiver, and I think Dak can certainly make things happen. And like I said, from about 3 to 10, they're all really good teams. I just think Mississippi State's going to take a pretty, I wouldn't say a big step back, but they're going to take a step back to a 7-ish win football team, or maybe an 8-win football team, and they jump up a little bit. But I just don't know how you can trust that team with the defensive losses and the loss of Josh Robinson and some other key players.
Barrett Sallee, we can trust you. That's why we enjoy having you on so often. Appreciate the time.
All right, thanks, Paul.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Ashton is in Biloxi on this Tuesday. Hey, Ashton.
Paul Finebaum. What's going on, my man?
I'm doing great.
Big Ten, John. As I say, I got a new name for you, John. Johnny Big Ten. Instead of,
That works.
I got you. Man, let me just start out with roll damn tide roll, baby.
I feel better already. I mean, I just say that again, will you?
Roll damn tide roll, baby. And hey, let me just go at my man Willie from South Alabama. Man, you first call 2015. You saying you bringing the kitchen sink? That was more like Charmin Ultra because it was soft, man, soft.
No, it's terrible. Embarrassing. By the way, I mean, it's one thing if the guy was a bad caller. I mean, one thing if that was Daryl or something. I mean, but I mean, Willie, he used to have game. I think that Auburn finish to the season, the loss to A&M, the loss to Bama, the loss to Wisconsin, just finally he missed the memo that Auburn is no longer the reigning SEC and state champ.
Well, just watch the film. That's all I can say. 55-44, that's all. And as far as my man from Georgia, Jason Macon, just like Bobby said, win one. Mark Rick has been there long enough. He's been there, 12, 13 years.
Oh, yeah.
One SEC title to show for it?
No. Hold on, sir. Rick's won a couple of SEC titles.
How many?
He won 2, right? He won 2 in the first couple of years. I don't think he's won one since, but he's lost in the championship game at least 2, maybe 3 other times.
Well, don't you think Georgia ought to really? I mean, I guess he's such a good guy. They want to keep him around, and he is. He's a good coach. Don't get me wrong, but in a way, you got to cut your ties.
Well, I disagree. I think Georgia's consistently a good program. This isn't a program. I mean, they had that one bad year. Was it 2 years ago? But Georgia has. I think in 2007 was within a whisper of playing for the national championship, and I won't repeat the obvious, but they had a shot at beating Alabama and going to the national. I mean, this is a program that's been on the cusp. It's not like this is the first time in 62 years they've shown up to the party.
Well, you're right. You're absolutely right. But take this into look at what Tennessee did with Phil Fulmer. I mean,
you make a great point, Ashton. Is the SEC a tough league? Yeah. You have 2 coaches in recent years. Fulmer, who won the title in 1998, fired in 2008. Chizik wins the national championship in 2010. He's long gone. I mean, that's tough when you can win a national championship and still get fired.
Well, I think, if he doesn't get it done, then what's the reason to keep him next year? Maybe
well,
he'll get a
part
job.
of the reason for Rick is, number one, he runs a first-rate program. He's competitive. He's well-respected. He has some standards. He has integrity. And other than that, there's no other reason to keep him, I guess.
Well, I will say this. Georgia has some great patience. And, let me end this, and I'll let you go, and I'll let somebody else get in. War damn ugly. War ugly. Alabama's got 98 problems and a Bulldog, and a damn show Tiger ain't one. Later on, Paul.
Okay. Good to hear from you. I don't even know what to say.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
And we're back with Andy Katz, the host of Katz's Corner. Of course, he's in studio on ESPN on the weekend. And I wouldn't call you Mr. College Basketball. Tony Barnhart might file an injunction, but you have done well, my friend.
Well, thank you. Yeah, it's been 15-plus years at ESPN. Dating myself in 20-some-odd years covering the sport. So it's been a lot of fun, constant challenges, and expanding my reach with Outside the Lines and doing a lot of things. And you've been a frequent guest and always a pleasure, and love your insight.
And I wanted to ask about that because it's such a cool show, and it's unique beyond anything else that happens. Talk about how you got involved in that and what's it like to fill in for Bob Lee, one of the iconic figures in the business.
Well, I've wanted to fill in for him for years, and I think me hosting on ESPNU certainly was a gateway to that. As you said, I think it is the show of record in sports daily television in terms of journalistically. And I love the format, whether we have a piece, an opening news headline, and then we have a discussion. And we've done a great job of diving deeper into topics, some topics that SportsCenter won't touch. We get out ahead. I mean, there was this Oregon sexual assault case. We hit on that subject. SportsCenter didn't touch it. Other networks didn't touch it because we can dive deeper into topics. Bob was at the World Cup last spring and summer and then vacation, so it was great. I had a long run of doing those shows. And now, just filling in for him when he's not available or on vacation. And it's certainly become one of the highlights of my career. I love doing it. Love the interaction with the staff, with the guests. And we have an unbelievable enterprise unit. And so when they produce pieces, obviously we run those and discuss after them.
And when you're done with that, there's basketball season, which
my day job.
Pretty endless ordeal. Let's talk a little bit about this season because I don't want to belittle or besmirch anyone because we're all watching the Krzyzewski story and others, but it seems like it's Kentucky and everyone else right now.
Yeah, I mean, this season has been kind of lacking that narrative that we had a year ago with all the great freshmen. And then, UConn ends up going on a great run and wins the national championship. Kentucky clearly is the story. They have a legitimate shot to go undefeated. We have to put in perspective, it's not the greatest team in college basketball. It's obviously one of the more unique teams because of their size and length and the number of potential NBA players. But I don't think they have, all-stars on their team in terms of NBA all-stars. I think they have a lot of rotation players that will play in the NBA. So that's a big difference in comparing them to the UNLV and some of those other teams. Obviously, Krzyzewski will get 1,000. They get it Sunday against St. John's. So that story will, end, and Duke will look like a national title contender. And there are other teams out there, whether it's Wisconsin, Arizona, Gonzaga, which is the number 3 team, and Virginia. The Cavaliers right now still undefeated. They won the ACC last year, regular season and postseason, and they've got an experienced group. They legitimately could win the national championship and have the composure, I think, and poise to potentially beat Kentucky.
Andy, Kentucky plays in the SEC, in case anyone forgot. And we talk to experts, as you do every week, and I'm told consistently the SEC is better. I'll ask you, because I know you'll give me a straight answer. What's the state of the SEC after Kentucky?
I wouldn't say it's gotten worse.
Be careful. You'll be censored.
That's fine. But this is the problem. Florida is in a transition year. They went to, I think it was 4 straight Elite Eights, got to the Final Four last year. So they had been an elite team. They went undefeated last year in the SEC. Oh, yeah. But programs like LSU, which has a lot of talent, Arkansas, they've struggled. They're inconsistent. unable to get over the hump and be real challengers. I mean, Ole Miss goes in and wins at Arkansas, and this is a transitional year for Ole Miss. A&M pushes Kentucky, not able to duplicate that on a consistent basis, although they beat LSU. And so they're beating each other up. Georgia has been up and down, beat Florida, but none of them look like they're capable of beating Kentucky. We'll have to wait and see if that happens. Or even, I don't know. I mean, to say how many are even going to get in the NCAA tournament, there's a lot of work to be done. This could be a year where it is only 2 or 3 teams out of the SEC, which really would be a major disappointment for this conference, even if they have a national champion in Kentucky or a team that goes undefeated. And the problem is Kentucky goes to Alabama. And Alabama gets up, biggest game probably in Anthony Grant's tenure in Tuscaloosa, and then lays an egg. They are going to be the team to beat every time that they go on the road, and the fans are going to get up for it, but they need to be, able to handle that challenge, and these schools haven't been. The one thing we'll say, Paul, though, for this show, whether it's on television or radio, I do think that the Kentucky fans don't get its due in terms of comparing the Kentucky basketball fans with Alabama or Auburn football fans. I think you can put them on equal footing in terms of their passion. That may be blasphemous to say this here, but I do think the Kentucky basketball fans are very comparable to the Alabama and Auburn football fans.
And I'll say this. I covered a lot of basketball years ago and spent much time in Lexington as anyone would, and I've always been a huge fan of the Kentucky basketball fan, and I do think, they talk about recruiting, they talk about the sport, and we were up there a couple of months ago for football, Andy, and it was second, third week in October, and they still hadn't quite made the transition, and the Wildcats in football hadn't quite gone on a 6-game losing streak, and there was great enthusiasm, but you knew it had a due date. And I would agree. I would think on a given day the passion is equal. I would say more so with Alabama. I think Alabama football fans equal Kentucky basketball fans. You'll be able to go back to Alabama after making this statement. Not that you'll want to for basketball unless you're going to visit Bruce Pearl.
Right, down in the state of Alabama. What you're not seeing, and maybe you will start on this show, is that the Kentucky basketball fan is passionate in terms of calling in. Will be upset if you challenge John Calipari or take a shot at them not being good enough when they still win a game, yet almost lose to A&M or Ole Miss. I think it's those kinds of things, and then the year-round aspect of it that are comparable to asking you, after the season, who's going to win the Alabama-Auburn football game next November.
Yeah, and I wonder though, we're still working our way through January, and I'm not trying to end the season. But as you went back to a minute ago, we get to a point where it becomes how many are you getting in the tournament? We're not quite there yet. As of this day, which is the 20th of January, other than Kentucky, would you say 2 more in the tournament?
I'd say only because if you look at the landscape in college basketball, there's a lot of mediocrity, and so you've got to fill the field. Mm-hmm. And that's why conceivably you could have 7 or 8 from the Big 12. You could have 7 or 8 from the ACC. I think ultimately you will get 2 more from the SEC. Who they are yet, still to be determined. Kentucky's obviously going to be a number 1 seed, and they're going to have a path, to the Final Four in Indianapolis. What's amazing to me on the road in the SEC, and I don't know, I'm curious how much this happens in college football. You will see Kentucky fans in all those road venues in the SEC in basketball, and they'll buy up some tickets to make sure that they get seats on the road in the SEC. How much does that happen in college football with an Alabama fan?
It's fairly difficult. They're allotted X number of seats, and they will buy them up. Every club won't. By the way, Andy, buying up seats in the SEC for basketball isn't that difficult at some of those venues. I wanted to ask you about Alabama because I watched that game like you did the other day, and Alabama had been playing reasonably well, although they blew a game last week on the road. Not to push him out the door, but Anthony Grant is on the hot seat. Where is he in your mind in terms of job security?
Well, I think this is going to be interesting for these SEC athletic directors because, these coaches are, they're having their moments, and Grant, has done that as well, has recruited decently, although he's had some attrition. But the question is it your objective to just be an NCAA tournament team, or is it to win the league, to challenge Kentucky and to some extent Florida? If it's just to get to the NCAA tournament, then I'm not necessarily certain that you need to make these changes because it has been cyclical where some of these schools have risen up and gotten in. Mark Fox, another example at Georgia, where they've been on the cusp but not been able to get over the hump. If they just get in, does that save them? Because constantly having turnover and change hasn't worked in the SEC because we've seen a lot of these programs constantly trying to try someone new, and it hasn't materialized to where you've had a consistent national program.
We have a couple of games on the SEC network tonight. Obviously, the nightcap, Vanderbilt and Kentucky, and you try to make something out of these games, and I'm all for watching them. They're exciting for the fan at home, but day in, day out, what's the measuring stick with Kentucky? Just being in the game in the second half, or taking them to overtime like we saw Ole Miss and A&M do a week and a half ago?
Well, the good news for the SEC network and for other networks here at ESPN that televise Kentucky is the Ole Miss and A&M games gave everyone hope that maybe it will happen in the league at some point. Now, what they did to Missouri and Alabama makes you pause and think, okay, maybe that was an anomaly, the way they played in those first two SEC games. Now this is the norm. But I think there's enough games remaining to sort of wait and see how it occurs. These next stretch outside of at South Carolina, I don't see them getting tested. The difficulty will be when they go back-to-back at Florida, at LSU. That's a Saturday, Tuesday. If they survive that, then more than likely they are running the table in this conference. As I said, Florida did it a year ago, and the league was better last season than it is this season.
Has anyone done this since Indiana in '76?
When the whole thing undefeated, no.
Okay.
They're the last college basketball team.
But UNLV was on the cusp of it.
Right, and then they lost to Duke in the national semifinals. St. Joe's and I'm drawing a blank on the other one. St. Joe's went regular season undefeated and then lost in the Elite Eight to Oklahoma State. So it's happened at that. Oh, Wichita State, last year.
Yeah.
Did it in the regular season, postseason tournament, but then couldn't do it in the NCAA tournament.
Andy Katz, we'd love to have you back. This has been really fun for us.
I'm here on Tuesdays, 1 o'clock Eastern Time on ESPN.
There will be someone waiting outside your studio to escort you in.
Thank you.
Thanks, Andy Katz.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN Radio app.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.